Guess who's on the front porch of the cabin today? It's Mr. Phil Case, who I've been wanting to meet a long, long time. We've been talking about everything, and we solved most of the world problems in 10 minutes.
No longer than that, yeah.
No longer than that. You know what? For years, people have been asking me, Tim, you need to have somebody talk about planting by the signs. I mean, everything from planting your garden to separating your calves from their mothers. I've heard them say, man, if you separate them under this particular sign, the calves aren't going to bawl as much. And is there something to this? Some people will swear 1,000%. The old timers really go hardcore on this. Some people say, it's voodoo. What do you think?
Obviously, I think there's something to it. And now that I'm one of the old timers, I can say with some degree of sincerity and certainty that I've planted enough gardens across the years in the proper phases and signs, and enough accidentally in the wrong phases and signs that I can show that it makes a difference just by using the proper phase of the moon, sign of the zodiac, with your normally good gardening techniques. I mean, you have to water, you have to plow, you have to weed, you have to fertilize and all that. You can't just go out and say, well, I'm going to lay it down here on the driveway because Case said I can put it out in dark of the moon. I'm going to give me a turnip out of this thing. Well, that isn't going to work.
So let's get back to the basics. Okay, I've heard people say you don't want to do it, something about the heart, something about the head. How many signs are there and what do they mean roughly?
There are 12 signs.
Okay.
Start with Aries, the head, and run through Pisces, your birth sign, the feet. They run down the body 2 or 3 days each month, and then they start over. Now, the reason they don't go exactly the same way every month is because we're on our calendar's 31 days, 31 days, except for February. This is a 28-day cycle. So they run through the body every month. There are 4 very fertile signs.
Okay.
And I remember it by signs, plant, thick, crops. Scorpio, the sign, plant, Pisces, the feet, thick, Taurus, the neck, and crops, Cancer, the breast. Those are the 4 most fertile signs. That's when you want to plant, when the sign is in one of those. How do you find that out? Well, it's in the almanac. What sign rules on what day? Aries and Leo, that's the head and the heart. They are the killing signs. Don't ask me why. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that anybody knows the answer. It's just that they are the killing signs, and I would not plant anything on the day of a killing sign. Then there's a series of so-so signs that are run from the thighs, the knees, the legs, and one of the things that you do when that's happening, if you can catch a time when the moon is in the dark phase and the signs are moving out of the body past anything that functions. In other words, your stomach functions, your heart functions, all that. Your legs certainly function, but not in the same sense as an internal organ. This is the time to make changes. This is the time to stop smoking, to start a diet, start an exercise program.
I don't want any of that.
Well, whatever you want. But if you got a change to make,
Gotcha.
you do
So it's
that.
going to take better.
It takes better.
So if you want to take the calves away from the mom,
That's the time to do it.
During those
dark of the moon, signs moving out of the body.
Interesting.
There are 2 phases of the moon each month. There's a light phase and a dark phase. There are 14 days each. January is one of those strange months that has 2 full moons. March also has 2 full moons, and February this year has no full moon. This particular configuration occurs every 18 years. That's how often this occurs. I found that out by reading the almanac.
There you go.
I mean, it's useful information. You want to plant in the light of the moon for above ground producers. When there's no moon visible in the sky, that's the new moon, until the full moon. Then you would want to plant below ground producers in the dark of the moon. That's from the full moon while the moon's waning, going back down. When it's waxing, when it's coming up, just like it's up
Above
stuff,
the ground.
down stuff.
Gotcha.
This isn't like for horoscopes. You know, where you read in a horoscope, well, my sign's Pisces, and it's a 2-star day, and they say stay in the house.
Or you're going to find money on Thursday.
Or you're going to find money, or you're going to have great relationships. They're so general. This hasn't got anything to do
Nothing
with
to do with
this.
For those who think this
astrology.
This is a whole different
And you
realm.
see down this column right here, we have all the dates
Right.
And then you run that across to the month, and you see the sign is in Leo today. Now, what kind of sign is that?
Leo is not a good sign.
It's a killing sign.
It's a killing sign. We
Yes.
don't want that. What would you recommend people do who are starting to put their, maybe they've got a greenhouse or they've got an atrium or an area where they can put some plants and keep them warm and start setting stuff out? When should all this begin?
Depends on what the plant is. If it's a cool weather plant that enjoys cool weather and can stand frost or cold weather, like cabbage, broccoli, radishes, onions, things like that, then within the next 6 weeks we can be planting those. Now, if it's warm weather crops like tomatoes, peppers, things like that, you have to wait till after frost. So if you're going to start your own chance of frost is over. So if you're going to start your own plants, you want to wait to be about 6 weeks out till you put them, ready to put them in the ground. My friend and my yard associate, Mr. Ron Osborne, commonly known as Oz, who helps me with the yard and everything, we rented a heavy tiller, not a lightweight tiller.
Gotcha.
Down here, and we plowed the garden. Now, adherents to this system say, and it's true, you can plow the ground in January or February if it's wet, like it is today. You know how squishy it was walking
Right.
up here. Normally you would say that's not a good idea because it's going to get cloddy. January or February you can plow it, and the water, Mr. Van Meter said, can follow you down the furrow if you're plowing with a tractor. And that ground will not get hard or clod up. But if you wait till March.
So listen, I'm taking all this in. January, February.
Yes, sir.
All right.
January, February.
I'm not hooking my plow up in March. I'm
No.
going early
No,
this year.
if you hook your plow up in March, you better wait till the ground's dry to plow.
When did you first start delving into this, and when did you first start talking to folks about this? When did you start thinking or seeing the effects of this thing and said, hey, this thing works?
When I came to Franklin County in the fall of 1969 to be the student pastor at the Bridgeport Christian Church, which
Oh, by golly, it's right,
just
right
over the hill,
yeah.
was a gentleman in my church by the name of Buford Van Meter. He did everything by the phases of the moon, signs of the zodiac. He planted tobacco, everything. They cut tobacco in the proper phases. They did not do anything without this. The church had a parsonage. My wife and I lived there. It had a great gardening spot. First year, I put out a garden because I loved it. And then I noticed Mr. Van Meter's garden was better than mine. That's how I started. And I said, why is your garden better than mine? And he said, I'll tell you, preacher, this is why. I plant by the phases of the moon and signs of the zodiac. I said, oh, that's crazy. You plant in the ground, you don't plant in the moon. He said, I'll tell you what, next year in your garden, I'm going to show you. Because you're going to plant when I tell you to plant. I was 22 years old then, probably 23 the year I did that garden, and I'm 70 now, so for nearly half a century I've been doing it. My column's in the State Journal every week. I'm going to post it on my Facebook page, which you'll have the address for. It tells you what to plant when, but if you can follow it, it'll just increase your yield.
I have enjoyed this much more than you know, and I want to thank you so much for coming out and visiting. And I want to have you again if that's.
That's fine. It's fine.
This is wonderful.
I love it. I love talking about it. I love converts. I'm glad you've converted. I have people all the time say to me, I don't know if I believe in that.
A lot of people think it's voodoo, hooty doody.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Yes. Yeah, it's not.
I think, and you're a religious man.
No.
I mean, you're not, casting spells on me, I hope.
No, I'm not.
But the thing is, we can learn something from everybody.
Sure.
And I have had too many old timers tell me this stuff works, and I'm going to start paying a whole lot more attention to it.
Why would you not want your garden to be the best that it can be if all it takes is picking the day you plant it?
I can do that, and I will do that. And I'm going to pick your noggin again.
I'm ready for it anytime.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Steve.